Joining me right now to talk more about that is the Saudi Economic Development Council member and Minister of State, Mohammad Al-Shaikh. Minister, good to have you on the program this morning. Thanks so much for joining us.
Maria, thank you very much for inviting me, and it's a pleasure being on your program.
And we know that Saudi Arabia has been trying to really diversify your economy for some time, given the focus on oil for so long. How has that gone? Have you been able to diversify the economy?
Well, I mean, you have to go back. For the last 5 decades, we've been talking about diversifying our economy, and we managed to achieve a lot over the last 5 decades, whether it be in building up the private sector and supporting it, infrastructure, etc. However, we have not been less dependent on oil revenues over the last decades. We've actually been more dependent on oil revenues, and that's why we embarked on what we announced a few months ago, Vision 2030, because we genuinely want to be less dependent on oil prices and revenues going forward, and we've embarked on that journey. We just started, and we have seen some successes over the last year or year and a half, but It is going to be a long journey. It's not going to be something that's going to happen overnight.
And having said that, oil is obviously incredibly important for your economy, Saudi Arabia being one of the 2 top producers of energy in the world. Let me ask you about the need to support the price, because we're seeing prices move lower on this expectation that supply is going to continue to move higher. And we know that President Trump wants to tap into the energy space and resources of America to produce even more oil on the global market. So what's your sense of supplies, the supply of oil on the global market, as we continue to see efforts to drill more?
Well, Maria, our policy has always been and continues to be that we want the stability of the oil markets globally, and we want to make sure that consumers, producers, and everybody basically has a stable market, and it's a win-win situation for everybody. And we're going to continue to pursue those policies going forward, working with the United States and with other oil producers around the world to make sure that there is stability in the global oil market.
Yeah, I mean, of course, there was a real debate going on 2 years ago when the U.S. shale producers were really ramping up production and oil prices were plummeting. And the shale was really part of the story because there was so much more oil on the market. Was it a mistake for OPEC not to stop production? Was it a mistake for the Saudis not to come in and say, you know what, we're stopping production, we see all this supply moving up, we're going to, and do you think it was a mistake for them to not stop the drop in oil?
I don't know if it was a mistake or not. I think we can't really assess that now. Maybe 10, 15, 20 years from now we could look back and see. But as you know, oil prices go through cycles, and we've been through cycles historically, up and down cycles. What the kingdom has always cared about, and what we care about going forward, is there is more stability in oil markets and less volatility in prices going up or down.
A senior advisor to the Deputy Crown Prince hailed yesterday's meeting with President Trump as an historical turning point in U.S.-Saudi relations. Minister, what changes are you expecting under the Trump administration as far as U.S.-Saudi relations?
Well, we're expecting, and based on the meeting yesterday, we are expecting that the relationship will go to a completely different level under the current administration. We're going to continue to work on areas of interest, but we're also going to explore new opportunities of cooperation and collaboration between the United States and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia going forward to truly broaden this eight-decade-old relationship. This is not an overnight relationship. We've had this relationship with the United States for over 8 decades, and we expect that this relationship is going to reach new heights under this administration. Yeah.